amigos. We are here for Hum of the Earth. Today we are in Pasto, Colombia, a city not typically picked for tourism, but we're here. Interesting art here. So the name Pasto comes from the name of the indigenous people that used to live here, which were Pastos, or at least generally in the region they were Pastos, but here specifically they were called something called Kisingas or something like that. It's a Sunday, so people are getting their workout on.
Sigue, bajo los brazos. Ajá. 4, 3, 2, se ve doble. Doble desplazado.
But I think I'll abstain.
Marcha del puesto. Ahí.
Su Majestad el Carnaval. Carnaval is a big carnival that happens here in January, where there's huge floats, really with a lot of detail and artistry, some of which relate to current events that have happened in Colombia recently. So unfortunately we're not in January when this takes place, but there is a museum which holds some of the previous year's exhibits. I think these would be public figures and their spirit animal, perhaps. Celebration of different ethnicities. So I mentioned that Pasto wasn't a very popular tourist city compared to Medellin, Bogota, or even Cali in Colombia. That being said, there are tourists that come here. Mostly for kind of eco-tourism activities, hiking, etc. There's a large lake that's not too far east of the city. There's also a volcano there, I believe Galleras, which actually overlooks the city. Might be hard to see it today because of the clouds, but I'll keep an eye out for it. There's also the world famous church Las Lajas, which is close to the town of Ipiaz. That's south, close to the border with Ecuador. And there's also the southwest, there's the volcan of Azufral, as well as the Laguna or Lake de Azufral, which is kind of a sulfur lake. So it has some cool blue-green color to it. And finally, there is the Volcan de Cumbal, which is the biggest volcano in southern Colombia. So I'll be visiting at least one of these three things, if not two or three of them. That'll be in upcoming videos on my channel. Trying to cross the street here to show you something. So you may notice some colonial architecture here. Pasto is one of the oldest cities in Colombia. It was founded in 1573 by Sebastián de Belalcázar, who also founded Popayan and Quito, I believe. It's Sunday right now. Sounds like there's a service going on or something. Maybe we can sneak in for a peek.
Que el Señor reciba de tus manos este sacrificio para la alabanza y gloria de su nombre, para nuestro bien y de toda su santa iglesia. Haz, Señor, que este sacrificio sea para ti una ofrenda muda y para nosotros santa abundancia de tu misericordia, por Jesucristo nuestro Señor. Amén. El Señor esté con ustedes. Y con tu espíritu levantemos el corazón. Lo tenemos levantado.
Pretty packed service, really nice church. Where to go? Pasto has a population of about 500,000. Most of the people living in the urban center work in services and trade. A lot of stores, a lot of commerce. The people living outside of the city are mostly farmers. Provide the food for the people living in the city. So since its early days, Pasto was considered the administrative, cultural, and religious center of Nariño, which is the department. And in fact, Pasto was considered the religious center of the entire country. So at the time when the idea of independence was starting to bubble in Colombia, the people that were not in favor of independence, called the royalists, they would often say things like, "I'm with God and the king." That was their allegiance. Since Pasto was kind of the religious center, it was very royalist. So it was one of the last places to declare its independence from Spain. So for a long time, it was after that most of Colombia had been declared its independence, Pasto remained kind of separate from Colombia in that regard. Says that this passage here, this pedestrian street, is called the Passage of Jesus's Heart. So with Pasto being the religious center of Colombia, that means that there's probably some pretty cool churches around here. I've already seen two that had really nice interiors. But if I know anything about Colombia, that 2 nice churches in a big city, not enough. Another nice brick church. And another church. Like the little angels at the top. Fortunately, this one does not appear to be open. No worries, we shall find more. I think this is some kind of government building here. And I believe these kind of signs that are affixed on the wall relate to the national student strike, a thing that's taking place right now. I was just in the city of Popayan prior to here, and there was a large group of students kind of camping out in that main square. Yeah, so far I'm pleasantly pleased with Pasto. Heard some less than great things, so my hopes weren't too high, which is always kind of a recipe for success when it comes to enjoying a place. Seems to be an interesting mix architecturally of new and old. Some cool graffiti here and there. Also, I had a kind of bad first impression of Pasto when I arrived here last night. People were telling me, oh, don't leave your bike there, or you can't walk there at night, it's dangerous. And there were quite a few people stopping me and asking me for money and stuff like that. But seems to be changing around. think that's gonna do it for the tour of Pasto. Quite enjoyed it. Definitely a more interesting city, at least that I found, relative to my first impression and what I read about it. But if you're in Colombia and you're only visiting Colombia, I wouldn't necessarily recommend coming here, just because logistically it's at the far south end of Colombia. But if, like me, you're going from Colombia to Ecuador, then I would definitely recommend stopping in for at least a half day or full day to check out the city, and what other extra number of days you would need to visit the natural highlights, the volcanoes, lakes, etc. Around the city. Yeah, so next up I'll be bicycling to the border and checking out at least one of the volcanoes that I mentioned previously. Also be taking some time to reflect on my time in Colombia and write a few articles and make a few videos on a few different topics that I find interesting about this time that I've spent in this beautiful country. So in the last 2 months plus, I've gone pretty much anywhere a tourist would think of going in Colombia. So you can check that out on my YouTube channel, either by going on the channel page and clicking the search button and searching for specifically what you're interested in, or checking out my Colombia playlist if you're watching this after my Colombia videos are finished. So I was in Colombia as part of my first ever bicycle tour, going from Canada to Argentina. If you'd like to see an interactive map of everywhere that I've been and everything that I saw and did, including my blog posts and videos, that interactive map is available over on my website, followthehumoftheearth.com. And if you like to follow my continuing adventures, you can do so by subscribing to my YouTube channel by clicking on the red button below the video. Alright, so that's gonna do it. Hope you guys enjoyed. Have a good one.